So this week I want to talk about one of the most important things when building an app. And it's not the functionality, it's not the features, it's this idea of delight, this idea of putting a smile on the face of your users. And this applies to every app. Even if you're building an enterprise app for businesses, you still want your users to feel good when they're using your app. It's especially important in a consumer social app. And I would argue that it's probably at least on par with the functionality and features when it comes to building a successful consumer social app. It's not enough to just have a ton of features. You need to really present them in a way that puts a smile on the face of your users. And so there are a few ways of going about creating delight. I'll touch on a few of them here. The first and kind of one of the most obvious ones is language. The language, the copy in your app doesn't have to be bland, doesn't have to be, even as simple as something, for example, let's say you have a 6-character requirement for your password. What is the error message that's presented to the user? Is it invalid password, or is it something, whether it's funny or just lighter, set you apart as a product, as an app, knowing that they're talking to, or not even talking to, but knowing this was made by a real person, not made by a robot, not made by some, sterile being. So language and copy throughout the app, I think, is really important. Even in terms of how you're referring to different features, all of that can create delight. It allows you to brand yourself better, and allows the user to better connect with the product. The second is animations. Animations, whether they're small little animations, I've always loved the Twitter heart animation when you like something or favorite something. That one really stands out to me as something that brings me delight, even though it's a subtle, simple thing. I think animations like that, tied with interactions. Obviously, everybody's familiar with the Instagram double tap and the heart that comes up on the photo. There's a bunch of them. There's a ton of these animations throughout apps, and so I think these are also really important. They don't add functionality necessarily. You could easily just press the like button and it could turn red, and same thing with Twitter. But adding that interaction, adding that little extra makes a difference for the user. That's how people remember things. Which brings me to another note, which is this idea of doing the unexpected. You shouldn't just do the unexpected for the sake of doing the unexpected, but where you have an opportunity to do something unexpected that also fits in with your brand, that also fits in with what the point of the product is, you should do that. People like the unexpected. People like fun little surprises. And so I think one great example of this is it's also an animation, is on Snap, when you kind of pull down to refresh and the little ghost kind of appears and then pops up. I believe Yelp has something similar when you're searching. But all of these kind of unexpected little things that don't directly add to the functionality, but certainly add to the experience, I think are really important for delighting users. The final thing is highlighting the content, highlighting the humanity of your app. And this doesn't apply to every app, obviously. There's not always user-generated content, but in consumer social apps, there generally is. And so in a case like this, the full focus of what I'm working on presenting is this rawness that comes through with video. This idea of being vulnerable and talking straight into the camera. I think that's again adds delight to users when you open up an app and the first thing you see is somebody talking to you, I think that's a fundamentally different experience than anything else that's out there. And it's a simple thing that might be overlooked. Like, why would that be the reason that people would be happy? But I've seen this experience myself, even whether it's using this or even other times where on other apps, even though they're not made for that, you open up and you hear somebody talking. That's compelling, especially if they're talking about, or talking in a vulnerable way. That's compelling. And so how do you highlight that? So yeah, thinking through kind of what delights users, what are ways to really put a smile on users' face. I think that's, like I said, just as important, if in some cases even more important than just the pure functionality of what you can do with the app. So what did I do this week? Well, my goal from last week was to get 5 users. I got 4, so I failed on that, but I am close, and I'm going to make up for it, this upcoming week. Got some feedback on what has been working, specifically what delights, what aspects are delightful. One of the things that stands out is this idea that, you don't usually have an app where everything is somebody talking to you, somebody giving their opinion in a vulnerable way, in an authentic way. And so I think that's one key aspect. And then kind of also brainstormed what are other ways to delight. Doesn't have to be complicated, doesn't have to involve restructuring the app or building a complex animation, but what are simple ways to delight the user, whether it's in the language, error messages, how we refer to certain things in the app. All of that is an opportunity to delight, and so spend some time kind of thinking through that. So what am I going to work on this week, this upcoming week? One, I'm going to get to 10 users. So I'm at 4, we'll get to 10. And I suppose at the same time also work on not only gathering feedback from them, but starting to implement some of these animations, some of these tools to delight. The first aspect is animations. I'm going to work on copy as well, but I think for the most part I've been conscious about copy. Thought about that from the beginning in terms of what language we use, and I've tried to make it reflect my personality and not be that boring, sterile copy that you generally get in an app or in a software product. So work on those. I'll throw a wild card in there in case I come up with anything else, but as always, like, subscribe. I'll check back in next week. Talk to you guys soon.